Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
I'm with Les Welch, and Les is from Chippewa Falls area of Wisconsin, and he announced a couple months ago on Facebook Live that he's now the Midwest affiliate for Fit for the Hunt. What's that all about, Les?
Nuts and bolts short term. It's just basically we're crossing fitness and hunting and trying to get everybody fit for their hunt, hence Fit for the Hunt. So basically it's just, as a personal trainer, it's coordinating workouts more specifically for people who are looking to be out in the mountains, or maybe it's even just learning how to be better equipped for sitting in a tree stand all day in Wisconsin or the Midwest or out east or whatever it is. But basically just trying to get everybody in a little bit better shape for being ready for the mountains and hunting in general.
Now, how did you find out about these guys?
Well, there's different competition venues. Fit for the Hunt is associated with the Alpha Challenge, which is out of Colorado. And then there's other ones as well. Basically, it's kind of us fools who are like-minded, who really like to work out and love to hunt and always striving to be a little bit better. You just kind of eventually cross paths with them, and these competitions started popping up and competing with different people, and even more importantly, after the competition and prior to the competition, during the competition, just BSing with like-minded folks. And I actually met Brian Horton out at, I believe, Denver ISE. His first time I met him a couple years ago or a couple shows ago. And then it's been in the works for almost a year now of me pulling this affiliate in here in the Midwest, which my area is Wisconsin, but I'll work with Minnesota. I work with online clients literally all over the United States, so it's kind of handy that way. But yeah, so it's finally coming together. It was launched on the Facebook Live event there that you did just before Christmas, and we're just getting ready for the mountains, have some fun, and get after what we do the best we can, you know.
Whitetail Rendezvous and Strike Force Energy have joined together. What do they join together to do? Well, they joined together to help you kick the can. That's right. Strike Force Energy is the fastest growing new energy drink on Amazon today. It's simple. All you do is rip, drip, and sip. That's it. No sugar, no crash, no calories. It gives you the ability to focus and stay in the stand, stay on the hunt all day long without carrying around a can. When I get a sample pack, simply go to strikeforceenergy.com, put in WR free, and you'll get a 4-count sample pack from Strike Force Energy. The one thing, from past podcasts, you've always been into fitness and keeping yourself mentally and physically strong. Now, share with my listeners in the Midwest that all they do is walk less than a quarter mile to a tree stand, to a box blind, and basically they're sitting there all day. The most exertion they have is either putting up the stand or taking the stand down or hauling out a deer. So why do we need to be fit?
Yes, sir. Exactly. You're right. Fit, in my opinion, is going to add years on to what we love to do. Being in better shape, better condition is going to allow you to hunt longer as far as the years of your life. Wisconsin now this year, we're allowed to actually break down our animals. We don't have to drag them out anymore. So that's a nice plus. But now you're throwing a whitetail in your pack with all your gear. You've got, 60 pounds, 70 pounds if you're taking a cape and a rack, maybe 80 pounds in your backpack. It's nice to be ready for that. Or if you want to do old school and drag that gear out, it's not exactly fun, especially when you're dragging it on dry ground here. The mental aspect of it, I tell you, that's it for most people, I think, is where most people will fail to a degree, is just being mentally ready. Can you go sit in that stand November 1st or October 31st through November 10th all day when you just don't know when that buck is going to cruise through? I wouldn't miss it personally. Like you said, cart your blinds in and out, etc. But all of it just plays hand in hand. The more physically or mentally stronger you are, I guarantee your success will be a higher portion of it. And you'll see that Western hunter, elk hunting is basically, they say 10% of the hunters kill 90% of the elk. The success ratio out there is give or take between 10 and on a very, very, very high percentage, 20%, and that's very seldom anywhere. So if you think about that, if you have people who are repeatedly killing animals every year, that really is true. I know I don't want to spend the time and the money, even if it's in Wisconsin. I don't want to be spending that kind of time. I'll take up golf if I'm going to only have the opportunity at an animal 10% of the time I go out. And it's not about the harvest either. It's about the experience and everything else. But yeah, being prepared for it is just, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, because one thing, and I've talked about this a lot, elk are only found in 10% of their habitat, be that 10,000 acres, 100,000 acres, it doesn't really matter. So with elk hunting, you have to find the elk. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. You know, check out Corey Jacobson, who's got a great course on all that. Corey knows a lot about that. But elk hunting, if you're in shape, I think anybody can get on elk. But you have to be mentally tough and physically tough. I still hunt to this day over 10,000 feet. That's where I hunt elk.
Yeah.
And it kicks your butt. I mean, and it's hard, and I go slow. I don't go fast anymore, but it actually helps my hunting. And I glass a lot more because once I pattern the elk, keyword is pattern. Elk are patternable just like whitetails. And if you're able to do that without a lot of pressure, then you're going to be able to harvest your elk. You're going to be able to turn into one of those 10%ers. That's my 2 cents about elk hunting.
You're dead on. I really think the same goes for whitetail too. I really think there's 2 main groups of whitetail hunters, or possibly 3, I guess. And we won't get into baiting, not baiting, public, private. But I don't bait and I don't hunt private land. 99% of the animals that I harvest or hunt are on public land that you and all my neighbors and everybody else in the state and the country can go hunt. I don't always need to be able to go further than them or go faster than them, but being mobile. And I say this, and I probably said this on your last podcast, Garrett Rowe has the perfect slogan. Be mobile and stay mobile. And that's my philosophy if I'm whitetail hunting, turkey hunting, deer hunting, antelope hunting, even mule deer hunting. Yeah, we're going to sit behind glass for hours on end. But if there's nothing in those basins, I'm going the next basin over. It's the same here for Wisconsin. I know guys are going to have 2 stands. And Chad, I'm not picking on you, but I know you're going to listen to this. A good friend of mine who I met at one of these hunting competitions, we were just talking about this a month ago. He's got 2 stands that he really primarily bases his fall on for whitetails in Wisconsin. And when he told me that, it blew my mind. I've got a dozen stands sitting out in the garage, but I've only ever got 1 out, maybe, and I've got 2 or 3 in my truck. Mature bucks leave whitetail sign. I mean, they leave big scrapes and they leave big rubs. I'm not talking early season in September because I'm out west hunting elk. I'm talking late October and all of November. So my feet, I got the Crispies, and they're on the ground and they're working. They're looking for scrapes and rubs, and I hang and hunt. At dark, I'm down, my stand, my sticks, whatever it is, comes with me. I might have another spot in mind the next morning. Midday, even if it's rut, if I don't have what I'm searching for, I'm off. I might put 4 or 5 miles on in between hunts during the day looking for what I'm looking for. Now, granted, I've got, in the areas I hunt, I've got 20 or 30 areas in my mind that I've hunted previously. I've scouted previously in the spring, shed antlers, looking, as soon as the snow melts, you can look for those scrapes and those rubs from the prior year. I'm not looking for a specific deer, but I don't really get into the hunting a specific deer because I'm hunting public land, and I don't know if that deer got killed by the neighbor 4 miles over during, rifle season or not. So I'm looking for a sign, and I know that bucks have core areas that are very common, like a walleye or a largemouth bass. When that bass gets caught out of an area, another bass is going to move in. Whitetails are the same exact way. Where I find perennial sign for whitetails, it's going to be there year after year. It might fluctuate up and down a little bit, a little better, a little worse. So I'm constantly moving, constantly looking at those areas. And that's where I think the training, being able to mentally say, I should be hunting, but knowing that, hey, I don't have it here. I'm going to go put on 3-4 miles quick. I got the legs to do it. I got the mental capacity to know that I should be doing something else. It just all kind of works together. Sorry, Chad, didn't mean to throw you under the bus there, but it's just a perfect example of mentally being ready. And it's not always a physical ready either,
No, and Dan Enfelt was on the show a week ago, and he well known in Wisconsin for killing swamp bucks, and he hunts for archery. And wait a minute, what are you saying? Because on Google Earth, I showed a guy last night, I showed where Bullwinkle lives in Wisconsin. And my buddy missed him. He shot over his back with traditional archery 2 nights ago. He's 27 inches wide. It's just a pig of a public land buck.
Yeah.
He lives in a swamp, a la Dan Enfelt. And so he shot over him. And so I know where he is. I know where he lives. And so I was showing my buddy, and he said, what's all those trails? I said, those are deer trails. They've been there forever. And they'll continue to be there forever because it's swamp and just the way it is. Those deer trails are like caribou trails up north. Up in Canada, the caribou trails are there for hundreds of years. Well, these deer trails are here for hundreds of years. Why? Because that's where they live, that's where they feed, and they're creatures of habit. I mean, Nobody's going to go in and get them out of the cattails. I mean, as soon as you step into the cattails, they know and they're out of there. But you can see patterns, you can see hubs, you can see the whole thing. And Dan Infelt hunts for trees. And once he finds the right tree, he told me he's got trees now he won't hunt anymore because he's killed so many deer on them. The challenge is gone. It's a killing tree.
Right.
And everybody would go, and if you've ever seen Dan Infelt's deer on the side of his barn, you'll go, oh my goodness. You know, he's killed some deer, and there's a lot of guys have killed as many deer as Dan, but Dan's just got it down to the science, hunting swamp bucks. I digress, but the whole thing is that he looked for, just like Les said, he looks for the core areas. He looks for the perennial sign. And I love that word, what you said, perennial sign, because that's year after year after year. A big buck will take over another big buck's area if he leaves that area. He vacates it. So just like a bass, a big trout, I fly fish a trout, and I know the hole in water. If I take a 24-inch trout, a big brown out of there, a hog of a brown out of a stream, within days, there'll be another trout in there. And that trout will stay there till a bigger trout comes along and kicks him out. That's just the way it works. So folks, listen to what we're saying, because this is some of the keys that'll put you on some of the biggest bucks of your life. Your thoughts, Les?
No, you're spot on. Exactly. I know the viewers can't see it or listeners can't see everything here, but of these bucks, and I got a wad downstairs, 5 of these have come from, I'm not as specific as Dan, but in an area, a core area of about a 300-yard circle. It's a hub, exactly, a big swamp, an edge, and a slash. And it just kind of, the sign moves from year to year. But I know, and this isn't Bayfield County where we don't have hardly any deer left. We have more wolves than deer, and that's literal. But I know if I go there, there's going to be some sign every year. It might be off a little bit here or there, however they're using that edge. But it's exactly right, that perennial sign. And I'll tell you, in my opinion, big bucks will make little sign. They'll make a little scrape. In fact, I've got one on film this year, a mature buck in Kansas making a scrape that Bambi could have made. It's like this big, but he did that with one paw and he kept going. But I've never seen a spike make a rub on an 8-inch tree. So when you start seeing big sign, that's what I look for. Big sign that's fresh, I hunt it, because I know a little buck is not making big sign.
Now, what about horizontal rubs? Now, that popped on my radar for the first time. Been around. I Googled it. People have been talking about it for a long time. But where Bullwinkle lives, there's a horizontal rub. And my friend told me that he's only seen Bullwinkle rubbing on that. He hasn't seen any other deer. True, not true? What's your thoughts?
The horizontal rub, we're seeing a lot. That's being publicized a lot more with Dan. And then the guys on THP here, the hunting public, are using that quite a bit. So it's getting more popular. I've never done it. I like the thoughts of it. And it's really, I was just watching an episode last night with it, and it really does intrigue me. My issue with it for me is I'm not stationary enough to do that. I don't usually hunt one stand more than 1 or 2 times a year. But maybe this will be that thing that slows me down a little bit. Maybe I put a couple, because I've got a couple of places in mind where I think that would really work. And then throw the camera up over it. And it's something I need to learn. It's definitely has its merit, and I need to understand it a little bit better. But the guys, like you're talking about, Dan and the THP guys, they're using it with really good success. So it's intriguing.
They're building their own horizontal rubs, and I'm talking to the natural ones. You know, the natural ones, and I'm telling people just hang a camera on it, and you may see the biggest buck in the area with a horizontal rub that's natural.
Yep, and I've got pictures of them. Almost every year I find them out west. The elk use them like crazy. Every year you find them. The first one I saw, I thought, what in the heck? And, I'm looking at it. Instead of looking up and down, you're looking left and right. He's got it rubbed for 10 feet, and it's really neat. And now on average, I'd say I find 1 to 2 every year like that. It's pretty neat. So the concept is there, just not, I haven't explored it like I need to yet.
Yeah, and I don't know all the rationale between mature bucks doing it versus juveniles or, younger age class bucks, but it's intriguing. And Bill Winke's been talking about it, Realtree, Josh Honeycutt, blah, 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 blah. I shouldn't say it like that. Really smart people, Tom Miranda. If you go to YouTube, you can see how to do it, where to do it, why to do it. And it's just something that's popped up on my radar screen from a buddy of mine in Missouri City. For the first time, he saw a living tree that was horizontal, just grew that way and just rubbed the crap, and he killed a big buck. He killed a booner off it. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, definitely it needs a little exploring.
Yeah, it really does. Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, let's talk about your 2018 season and how that all came together. Now, you had multiple trips, so let's just start off, trip one and work through where you are sitting on the couch today.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when we last talked. I believe I've been to Canada. I was to Canada bear hunting in the spring, went with some buddies. We had a good hunt, shot some bears up there. Caught a lot of walleyes, ate a lot of walleyes. That was pretty awesome. And talked a lot of BS. You know how these hunts go when you're with good buddies. We were up there for about a week, Ontario, Signet Lake Outfitters, and that was really good. Then I did Ironman, Wisconsin here, and we had a bunch of turkey hunts too. We did film some turkeys. It was a little rougher year for turkeys, getting a little more particular too in how and where we hunt, but we did shoot some turkeys, got some on film. And then Ironman, Wisconsin here in September, and from there I literally came home, finished Ironman at like 9:10 p.m., got home, or the hotel, drove back home from Madison to Chippewa Falls here. Just right here, it was a gear bomb in my living room, so I unloaded triathlon gear in my kitchen, made a triathlon gear bomb out there, literally loaded this up, took a shower, started for Wyoming, and got a couple miles down the road, and my truck, I could hear it wasn't right, and I thought it was a U-joint, and this is in the PM. So I called a good friend of mine who owns an auto repair shop here. I said, Brad, I'm supposed to be on my way to Wyoming right now. I think I got a U-joint out in the truck. Can we take a look at it? He had me come over to his house, dropped it out quick. It was a U-joint. We replaced it the next morning. We couldn't get parts. So he put me on the front of the list in the morning. And I still owe Brad some elk steaks for this one too, by the way. And we got the U-joint fixed up. So then I headed to Wyoming solo. My hunting partner, Mike, was already out there for a few days. And little beknownst than me, he'd already killed a 326-inch bull the day I was headed out, but with no service out there, and he didn't have a inReach, so I didn't actually even know where he would be. So I went into my spot, got there. His truck wasn't there, so I hunted there a few days solo.
Now, are these public land?
Yeah, Bruce. Almost.
General tags?
Wyoming is a general tag, yep. 99% of my hunting is public land. I got a spot here in Wisconsin, 40 acres of private. It's all open hardwoods. Never killed a good buck on it. I've seen a few, but yeah, most of my stuff is all public. Everything out west is always public. I've never hunted private out there. So yeah, all DIY, no outfitters. Use the quads for the horsepower and the backs and the shoulders, and sometimes a weak mind really gets it done. But yeah, so I got to Wyoming, spent like 3 days in an area that we had good luck in 2016, and the elk weren't there. There was a lot of people. I could have stayed and grounded out and probably got into elk, but the mental part of saying I gotta go, there's gotta. Literally, we had a sheet, and I should have brought it out for this because I don't think people have a good backup plan, much less a third or fourth. We had 36. We had 36 options down on paper, and my hunting buddy is amazing when it comes to maps and planning and thoughts. He's a land surveyor in Minnesota. So 36 options down from 1 through 36, and just start going down there. We had the roads, the access points, how to get in there. Had them color coded, okay, red, yellow, orange, what's hot, what we thought looked hot. And this is all virtual scouting. This is not boots on the ground. The only spot we had boots on the ground is originally went to those first 3 days. And it was, I'm just going to say dead, and it was overrun with people. So I pulled it out, and I knew Mike was going to be kind of searching through probably those first top 5 spots. I mean, that's just logical. So I started heading that direction, and at whatever order it was, I found his vehicle at the 3rd spot. So I think it was on my day 4, I pulled in there and was setting camp up when he came walking from the stream bed about 2 hours later, holding a stringer of fish and a fly rod. And I was like, fly fishing in elk season, that doesn't add up. Unless there was a punch tag, and I kind of peeked in his truck just to see, doing this in the window, and I didn't see no horns. So what are you doing fishing during elk season? He's like, can't go elk hunting if you don't have an elk tag. And underneath the tarp is, a beautiful 326-inch 6-point bull. Solo DIY. Mike he's retiring in February, so he's a couple years older than I am. I don't know, this is his 15th or 16th year out there, and definitely not his biggest bull, but yeah, so he's got one on the ground, and we had a good time, good chat about that, and then it got really difficult after that. The elk were there, they were bugling, we were in elk, but only for a day. We ended up coming out, we day hunt in and out on this trip. We normally pack in for 7 to 10 days, only come back out when we need food, but this we were only having to go in 3-4 miles to hunt. So that was a short enough walk that we'd hunt till dark and then come out. Yeah, we don't get out until 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyways, on that's my second night there, my first night of hunting, we come out. Mike hunted with me that day. And you could just see it wasn't right. It's a big camping spot where we were, and it's all lit up. There's 20, 30 vehicles and camps there, and then people are just driving out hunting other places. But there's no lights. And like I said, this is, whatever it is, 11 o'clock at night. And we get down there, and there's only 2 rigs left, and there's notes on our trucks, and our gear is gone, literally. Some friends we had made in camp we just met them. DNR warden had come in and evacuated the place out. There's a fire, I want to say it's 2.5 miles north of us. I don't remember, whatever it was. And so they evacuated people out. And so then Mike ended up going home then because he didn't have a tag anyways. So then I bumped further north and run into another fire, evacuated out of there. And then I come back south and went further south, and they had roads closed. I couldn't get into there. And so now I'm going down that 36 list sheet, trying to find spots and just bombing in, day hunting in and out. And I had some encounters, actually passed a couple of bulls, and it had a real nice encounter. And then I ended up going into another area, September, I believe it was the 20th, 19th or 20th. I just went in to day hunt it and got into bulls and called the bull in at 11:30. And killed. And then I had a friend back here. I had a Garmin InReach and was keeping me posted on the fire situation. And when I got out that night, I got the elk broke down, and I brought out backstraps, inners, and some scrap, got out to the truck, dumped it at midnight, and checked my InReach, and I had 5 messages, and I knew something was up when I had that many. And so I messaged back. A new fire had started, and it was less than a mile north of where my elk lay right at that time, and there was 40 hotspots had jumped up in the last 24 hours. The wind had got real bad, 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it was blowing embers, and there was something like 45 or 50 fires within a 10-mile circle of me. So then it just became a race, and this is where the conditioning turned out nice. I literally slept for about 3.5 hours, got packed, got Dennis's pack, and threw that on, headed in, and I made 3 loads out that day, 18 miles of hauling meat that day. So got my elk and really just got the hell out of there. It was getting pretty ugly. I got some great pictures and video footage. I mean, fires everywhere, smoke, haze, fog. All my gear smelled like fire. But it was an interesting hunt, hard hunt. But that's where the mental and physical, a lot of miles packing meat in a very short time, just coming off of an Ironman. So I was ready for it, but it was good. That was late September. I came back home. Don't believe I did anything. Hunted here a little bit. Yeah, filmed Hunter on a couple of hunts. And then I went to Kentucky. I did Ironman there. Same exact thing. Drove back from Kentucky, dumped my crap in the kitchen, pulled my crap out of the living room, loaded the truck, went to Minneapolis, picked up a friend, and we drove to Idaho. We did our first rifle hunt out west ever. That's public land. We bought deer tags. Long story short, planned on buying elk tags, but they sold out the day I killed in Wyoming. And by the time I got service, they were out of the Idaho general tag, so I didn't get an elk tag. We ended up just buying deer tags. Didn't see a lot of deer. It was a tough hunt. That's where it was having good company. A lot of fun. BS'd a lot, so that was really good. But it was tough mentally not seeing deer. I'm used to being able to find animals. Doesn't matter what it is. And I don't know mule deer hunting. This is only the second time I've ever deer hunted and the first time I've ever really what I would consider, hunted mule deer. So it was a great learning experience. We were in Idaho, and I guess this is the lowest deer population they've had in a number of years out there with some bad winters and stuff. But we had a lot of fun. Did not fill a tag, which is kind of a thumper to me. It's not necessarily about a kill, but I, like being good at what I do, especially when I take somebody new out there on a hunt. So that was not disappointing, a little different. And then came back, was here a little bit, did some hunting in Wisconsin, filmed Hunter shooting a couple of deer here. And then from here, went back to Kansas with my hunting partner, Mike. Had a good hunt there. We saw a lot of deer, filmed a lot of deer. I think 52 different bucks I saw in 7 days. Again, all public land. Met a couple of really good guys. Gosh, I don't even have their hat on right now, but the Head Hangers guys out of Kansas came and visited, and Garrett actually came from Heads Up Decoy, came and visited, so they helped us out a lot. Just kind of narrowed down areas for us to start searching in. And then literally we put 400 to 500 miles on the trucks, and literally probably 100-ish miles on each of our legs or more maybe, scouting, looking for the things that we talked about earlier in the podcast here. One thing I found out, a lot of predators out there, a lot of coyotes and bobcats, so I hope to make a trip out there, if not this winter, next for sure, to hunt them a little bit. Made some good friends out there. It's a hunt I'd like to do every year if possible. Came back here, literally got back the day before rifle season, jumped into a Wisconsin rifle hunt here, and we shot a few deer opening day. Actually shot my biggest rifle buck to date here. And then, I think we shot 5 deer and a coyote the first day, and then a couple more deer throughout the season. And I don't know, we're still kind of chasing them around here a little bit. Cameras are being pretty quiet right now. Those deer are pretty scared. You know how the deer are in Wisconsin once they get chased around by a couple 100,000 people, literally. So still watching the cameras a little bit. I'll get out here, maybe get down to Minnesota a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. But show season starting up next month. I'll start traveling a lot, being at a lot of the different shows. So that'll pretty much wind up the season. I got a lot of the recap is on Rock Slide called Another Season. I've been doing that thread on there for a few years. So that's got kind of recaps the whole fall. You can see the different animals we've harvested and just the different reviews I've done, different things that we've talked about and laughed about and bled over, so to speak.
Thanks for that recap. And folks, listeners, if you plan not just your hunts, but hunting multiple states, it takes time to drive there, but it isn't as expensive as you might think. Yeah, it does cost some money for gas. It does cost money for food and tags, but there's a lot of states, Western states included, that have over-the-counter tags. So it's not just limited draw. And DIY hunting on public land is doable. It's more than doable, especially out west. It's where everybody hunts for the most part. And you don't need private land to be successful out west, period. Yeah, you got to have a tag, but other than that, you don't. So think about that, because you need to start planning for 2019 right now. I know January coming up, I'm going to put in for my general tag, because in Wyoming, you have to put in for the general tag, even though it's over. You get it, you still have to put in for it. And then you have to pick up your archery tag. That's the way it is. But you have to learn the nuances, and so don't wait till February to say, I want to put it in for Wyoming. Well, you're already too late. So, I'll give a plug for gohunt.com. They'll help you understand and work you through all the different things that you have to do. You've been hunting for a while. You've successful hunting. What do you know today that you sure as heck wish you knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago as a hunter?
Before I answer that, let me back up to what you said about planning your 2019 season. 2019 is 90% planned for me. 2020 is probably over 50% planned. 21, 22, and 23 all have plans. That was something else when I threw Chad under the bus a little bit. That's something else him and I talked about a few weeks ago. People, once hunting season gets over, they're worried about ice fishing and dart league and bowling league. My thought process is when I'm sitting in the tree stand in Kansas last month, I'm already worried about, for sure next year, I already know what my draw selection is going to be. Somebody just asked the other day, it's time to start thinking about 2019, and it's not. 2019 it's already done. It's a formality now. I just need to fill out my applications of where they go, because I already know what I have scheduled, what I'm going to have planned. There might be another hunt or two that I'll throw in there. In fact, one came up yesterday that I'm working with somebody that we might be in Idaho in late December next year. So there's always that option, but I already have my main 4 or 5 hunts will be planned for next year and the following year. And a lot of states, you need to be planning 10 to 15 years out. Arizona, Utah, your high-end Colorado deer and elk, those are anywhere between 10 and 25 years you need to be, thinking at least about. Maybe not planning that far, but thinking. So it's a good point you brought up. Yeah, 2019 is already said and done as far as the planning goes. Things I wish I would have known about 5 or 10 years ago, the mountains. 11 years ago, I had mountain hunted. So this was my 10th year in the mountains. I wish I would have started it when Hunter did at 10 years old. If you haven't been out west, you need to go. Besides what we talked about, fit for the hunt, mentally and physically, that's probably the biggest other thing. You will or you won't. Either way, you're going to decide that. And whether that's succeed or go or just make the next step in whatever you do. It doesn't matter if it's fitness, if it's hunting, if it's nutrition. I can't do it for you, Bruce. You can't do it for me, and you can't do it to any of your listeners. I can't do it for any of my clients either. You will or you won't. It's up to you. Nobody else can, decide that or define it. You need to do that. So, yeah, if you haven't been out west, go. Odds are you might not come back.
I didn't.
Yeah, right? I know.
No, I didn't. Talk a little bit about writing for Rock Slide, why that's helped you become a better hunter.
Oh, man. Have you had Tony Treach on the podcast from Michigan?
No, I don't know. Listeners, I'm at 560 shows in 3 years, so there's nobody with more podcasts about hunting whitetail than yours truly.
There you go. I'll give you Tony's contact information when we're done. You need to have Tony on the podcast. I'm not kidding you. He was on a 12-week road trip. I'm going to say 12 weeks. I might be off 1 week. He might have been 11 weeks he was gone. Tony left Michigan with his truck packed up, and he had an epic year. He had tags like most people have dollar bills in their pockets. He hunted everywhere. I don't know how many animals he harvested, how many miles he put on, but Tony is one of the things about Rock Slide. Jordan Budd, Jared Bloomgren, Robbie, Ryan, they're all amazing people. The biggest thing with Rock Slide, if you want to come on there and drama and conflict and thump your chest, the band hammer comes out, I think is what they call it. But you're going to find the most dedicated group of backcountry DIY hunters that's in one spot than you will anywhere. Writing on there, it's a privilege for me. I enjoy it. I love to do it. Great people, super good knowledge. The crew, and when I say the crew, I mean all the people who visit it. For the most part, 99% of them are really good people. There's none of the conflict, none of the drama, and the information level is more than you can handle. If you have a question on anything like that, search it on Rockslide, you'll find an answer. And if you hit any one of us up, there's probably a dozen of us on there, you'll get an answer for it.
Well said. Well said. Well, with that, let's make sure we touch base with you after show season, kind of in April. I'd like to have you back on again. Talk about conditioning, because I think, myself, as I get older, it gets harder. There's no question about that. But I think it's the biggest failure point for most people. It's physical conditioning and mental conditioning, because there's times in a hunt, every single hunt, that you just don't want to get out of bed. You just don't want to go to that next basin, especially out west. And it's not that much different in whitetail hunting. There's some mornings that are friggin' cold and you go, I'm going to roll over. I'm not going to get up. And your trail camera says Mr. Wonderful was underneath your tree at 7:05. And you go, oh my goodness. And you have to be dedicated. You have to be committed, but you have to have the tools to do that. The tools are mental and physical condition. And surprisingly, it doesn't do you really good to go out and drink all night and then try to hunt all day. If you're 19, 18, whatever legal drinking age, and you can do that, fine. But as you get older, you just can't do that. And hey, I love Jack Daniels and I enjoy it as much as the other guy. And I made up some elk tenderloins with Cabernet Sauvignon this fall. And that was a 5-star, 5-star meal. But having said that, the commitment to the physical and the mental is a huge part. It's over 50% of your success of your hunt. Hey, folks. Bruce Hutchin, host of Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, I'm pleased to announce that Buckwild Coffee is continuing their sponsorship for 2019. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people every day go to Starbucks and buy coffee. Well, I'll ship it to your house. Yes, I'll ship light, medium, or dark roast, ground, or bean, right to your house. It's real simple. Just go to whitetailrendezvous.com/shop, pick out what roast you want, and we'll ship it out. Take a look at Buckwild Coffee, the finest roast in the West. Well, finest roast around the campfire, finest roast around your kitchen table. It's just flat out the finest roast you can get today. Order some at whitetailrendezvous.com/shop.
Well, if you draw that Wyoming General tag, Bruce, you're going to have to hook up with us, because Mike and I plan on drawing that tag again. We're not sure how yet, but we're going to figure it out yet. And Mike has always got his nightcap of Jack Daniels in the tent. So, fit well with us. You're 100% right. You've asked about the different physical aspects, and we've talked about different mental things. So, in Louisville, in between some of the hunts this year, was probably the hardest mental thing that I've ever done. Maybe around 3,000 of us started Ironman Kentucky this year, and the conditions were horrid. Rain the entire day, upper 30s and low 40s temperature, and then you try to ride a bike for 6 or 7 hours and then do a 5 or 6 hour marathon. Literally, to my knowledge, I think it was the highest DNF rate of any race. I believe there was 30-some% DNF'd on the bike alone. The temperatures, you literally could not feel your hands, your feet, everything was numb. I'll guarantee you there was way fitter people than some of us that finished that DNF'd at 30, 40 miles in on the bike because they couldn't mentally wrap their head around, their body was actually stronger than they thought it was. Like we talked about, that goes with everything. You're talking about as you get older, we'll probably have to talk in the near future as well. You talked about your hip replacement. In 2014, my orthopedic said I'd have to have my left hip replaced within a year. Well, we're over 4 years beyond that. I fight with the pain every day. Both sides, left and right, need to be replaced. He's already given me that. So working around that, but even with those limitations, I can go in the mountains now and go further than I ever have. I'm in the best physical and mental shape probably of my life. And that's, at 44 years old almost. Mike, my hunting partner, he's, like I said, he's retiring in February. And he's not a hindrance in the mountains at all. Anybody else that I hunt with, he'll keep up with. I mean, he'll push 30-year-old guys. That's just the way it is. So, yeah, it's at least 50%, like you said. No question. And definitely when April turkeys come around, that time frame, show season is over, bear hunting starts. Anytime, I always enjoy talking with you on the podcast. It's good fun.
Well, with that, Les, thank you so much and have a great show season. And I can't wait to connect again.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.